Hey Hemmels, how do I look wearing my new Scientific Audiophile shirt I got from the Scientific Audiophile merchandise store? Damn Acoustic Energy AE320 Slimline speakers. They add 10 pounds. That's it. I'm just not going to review Slimline speakers anymore.
What?
Sadly, people are choosing looks over substance when it comes to speakers. For some reason, most of you don't want to see this monstrosity in your living room. You prefer the sleek, slim speakers, like these Acoustic Energy AE320s. The problem with slimline speakers is they're slim, meaning they can't use big, fat, 8-inch, 10-inch, and definitely not 15-inch drivers that you see here. And without fat drivers, physics says you can't play deep. Because of the width of the enclosure, the AE320 uses a 130mm, that's about 5.1 inches on my side of the pond, ceramic aluminum sandwich cone mid-bass driver. But Acoustic Energy said, let's stick 3 of them in that box. That will move the air we want. And they claim specifications down to 35 Hertz, all the way up to 30,000, plus or minus 3 dB, with a sensitivity of 88 dB at 1 watt, 1 meter in an anechoic chamber. For those of you watching who don't have an anechoic chamber, sensitivity is estimated at 90 dB in a room. I would assume in a room like this, it could reach 100 dB. They also have a slot-style rear port instead of the more usual round port on the rear. Acoustic Energy claims this allows for closer placement to the wall with less chuffing that will be heard. And these speakers aren't light, weighing 26 kilograms apiece, that's 57 pounds, and are 1,000 millimeters high, 175 millimeters wide, and 320 millimeters deep. They also come with nice rug spikes. Your overall impression taking these out of the box is pretty impressive. And then you find out they are selling for only $28.99 in black or white. For what you're looking at in walnut, add another $100. You definitely get the first impression that there is a lot of value here. What's that saying? Make a good first impression? It's the only chance you'll get. Well, Acoustic Energy definitely makes a good first impression. And for what it's worth, I was sent these speakers for my honest review. My dad's Social Security check was late coming this month, and he did not buy them for me. They are going back to the company after the review. I set these up in my home theater and broke them in with 250 hours of pink noise. Then I got to listening, because that's my thing. Listen first, then measure. I can then nuance my measurements to conform to my subjective opinions. But after only 2 hours into my 600-hour Bish listening session, something didn't sound quite right. There was too much presence in the music, so it was time to mess around a little more with their placement. But didn't I just say earlier these are 26 kilograms each? I needed help towing them in, towing them out, and moving them all around. After a good hour and a half, my mom was exhausted, and I didn't quite have the sound I was looking for, so I told my mom to take a break and make me some lunch. The presence regions was still exaggerated. Bish's 21mm pipes were shrilly not angelic. My more pedestrian subscribers will know this issue with the higher range of cymbals, some guitar and piano. In truth, most every instrument can play something in the presence range of 4 to 6 kilohertz. Now, normally I don't like to do any kind of listening because people's speaker systems, YouTube, etc. make sound terrible. So doing a listening session for you is very difficult. But I found some high presence region copyright-free music and recorded the sound difference between my AE320s. and the JBL 3677s. So hopefully you can hear what I'm trying to convey. Let's take a short listen. It's about 30 seconds each, and I'll put them back and forth in between each other to A-B a little bit. So I stopped my listening session early and started measuring them. I did an on-axis measurement from 1 meter and, well, it looked pretty good, except for this dip around 4 kilohertz. That makes sense now. The presence region wasn't exaggerated. The upper mid-range dipped. Easily fixed with EQ, and I was back for 550 more hours of bish. Let me also reiterate that these are slimline speakers, which means they are designed for people who care more about placement and how a speaker fits into their room and their lifestyle. So that mid-range dip may work well in untreated rooms. And this is one of the biggest issues speaker designers have. Even perfect measuring speakers in an anechoic chamber may sound lifeless or too excitable in the millions of potential rooms they may eventually be used in. So it is very possible that a not so perfect measuring speaker will sound better in an untreated room than a perfect measuring speaker. One area which may be purely subjective is the ceramic aluminum drivers just seem faster in their response time to a myriad of instruments than paper cone drivers. It definitely does not show up in my measurements, but I just felt like the AE320s were handling mid-bass with extreme ease and were instantly ready for the next beat. Placebo effect? Probably, but nonetheless interesting. Regardless, bass was very good and extended. Not as deep as advertised, but I don't put my speakers near walls, so back to measuring. These are my in-room measurements, not anechoic, as my mom was testing some new speaker designs of hers in the chamber this week. Different than the previous measurements I showed earlier, these are the 1.5 feet from a wall with no EQ. With the speakers nearer the wall, EQ'd, I certainly enjoyed the AE320s. Bish's organ had authority and the presence region was tamed. Music sounded relaxed with no particular frequency range calling attention to itself, as it should be. Sibilance was well controlled. My style of music doesn't particularly lend itself to the presentation these speakers convey, so after I listened, I let my mom listen to her hard rock. I planned on putting my 25-minute interview with her at the end of this video, where you could just be watching me listen to her while she's off camera like I'm some narcissistic egomaniac. But sadly, my dad never hit the record button on the camera, and what he thought was the red light was a reflection of the camera lens from a rechargeable flashlight. So I'll just read from her notes. The AE320s are a rocker's paradise. Deep bass that could handle everything John Bonham and Neil Peart could throw at them, while making Robert Plant and Geddy Lee sound even more like they have sounded to me in years. I hope you guys get those references she's referring to, because I certainly don't. We have a speaker trying to do a lot. It's trying to fit beautifully into a modern room, using a slimline design, and is quite attractive. It's also trying to play deep enough where most people won't even bother with a subwoofer. It will definitely need proper placement, but with that effort and a little EQ, it will sound sweet. Stick in the middle of the room and do nothing, no EQ, anything, then maybe they'll sound a little sour to you. So what better rating than a 2019 Chateau Saint Michel Riesling, a fantastic value paired with sweet and sour meatballs. If you find the sweet spot nearer to a wall where you can take better advantage of that port and get them to dig deeper, use a bit of EQ to bring up that mid-range dip, then the AE320s will pay off in spades. This is a speaker that with a little attention can fit into that tight spot of your room and be very comfortable there, where other speakers will be uncomfortable and sound bloated, especially other rear-ported speakers. Acoustic Energy did a really good job balancing between slim design, deep bass extension, and value. It's definitely worth a listen if you need this type of a design. Thanks for watching this edition of the Scientific Audiophile. Please subscribe and be notified when our next video drops. Have a great day.